Let's start because we are already 5 minutes late. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this session called Increasing Resilience of Vulnerable Communities Through Climate Finance, Lessons Learned from the Philippines. So in these 45 minutes, MCPI, our dear speakers, will explain you what ADA and MCPI, the Microfinance Council of the Philippines, are doing in the Philippines together with 3 partners, MFIs, and thanks to the support of the Ministry of Environment, Climate and Sustainable Development of Luxembourg. Before introducing our dear guests, I would like to introduce Ada and myself. So my name is Lucia, and I work for Ada since slightly over 1 year, and I am involved in project activities, especially in Asia, regarding agriculture and forestry value chains and climate smart agriculture. So ADA, for those of you who don't know ADA is a Luxembourgish NGO. The name is Appui au Développement Autonome. It's a Luxembourgish NGO operating in developing countries since 1994. Our expertise is inclusive finance, and we use this expertise to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals and to support vulnerable communities in developing countries to increase and improve their livelihoods. At ADA, we are focused especially on 3 main thematics: young entrepreneurs, agriculture and forestry value chain, and access to basic services. And on top of this, we focus also on 3 main cross-cutting issues: digital, gender, and climate change. So we try to embed in all our project activities the lens of these 3 cross-cutting issues by trying to assess the risk and having specific activities related to these 3 cross-cutting issues topics. Our approach to green finance and climate finance. So in the past, ADA was especially focused in access to clean energy. So in the past, we had several projects in Tunisia, in Peru, in Central America, and of course in the Philippines, focusing, as I said, in access to clean energy, solar water pumps, solar lamps, all these kind of tools. So we supported our partner MFIs developing financial products to actually access to these clean energy technologies. Whereas now, and thanks especially to the requests and demand of our partners, MFIs, but especially clients, we are focusing more on climate change. So basically what we try to do is supporting our partner MFIs in developing financial products who can actually help small order farmers or vulnerable population to adapt or mitigate to climate change. As you know, Philippines is one of the countries that is more exposed to climate change and natural disasters. So I would like to propose you to use your phone and assess your knowledge about the impact of climate change in the Philippines. We have a very short 5 questions quiz. So you can use your phone and connect to the QR code you see on the top left and try to give your answers. I will give you 10 seconds per question. I will read the question and then we will see the results together. All the data are taken from the Philippines Statistics Authority. So, are you connected? Let me know if it works. So let's see. How many typhoons hit the Philippines in 2023 so far? So we still have a few months. No, actually 1 month and a half. Okay, you can see the options, right? Okay. Shall I? Let's see. Okay, it's very well distributed. Somebody's changing ideas. Okay, so actually it was 23 so far. And the typhoon season goes from end of June to end of September or end of August. Okay, question number 2. How many earthquakes happened in the Philippines in 2022? Now we go back to 2022 for statistic reasons. Let's see. Ready? Somebody still changing his mind. 26. Somebody thought, the majority thought 20. Okay, 3rd question. How many flood events happened in the Philippines in 2022? All the pictures are from Philippines. Let's see. Okay, 68, huh? Somebody's playing smart. 4th question, how many landslides struck the Philippines in 2022? Okay, good job. 16 landslides. When we talk about landslides, earthquake, I mean, all these natural disasters, we are talking about natural disasters which really impact, which really destroy, as you can see from the pictures, the environment. Last question. Which are the 4 countries most affected by climate change in the last 20 years? Difficult question, huh? Okay, let's see. Puerto Rico, Myanmar, Haiti, Philippines. And actually, Philippines is the 4th. So, as you could see, this was actually just to give you an idea of how much Philippines is impacted by natural disasters, and also to frame a little bit better our project in there. So it's actually a good way to understand how much we should do in order to help vulnerable population to try to mitigate or adapt to climate change. So without further hesitation, I am very happy to introduce the speakers for this session. We have Mr. Allan Robert Sicat. He's the Executive Director of the Microfinance Council of the Philippines, the National Association of Microfinance Institutions in the Philippines. Under his leadership, MCPI has awarded the Good Corporate Governance Champion by the Security and Exchange Commission from 2020 to 2022, and the Financial Inclusion of the Year from 2013 to 2015. Before joining MCPI, he was part of the Rural Bank Association of the Philippines. He is an accredited social performance management and client protection assessor, and he owns a master's degree in business administration and a bachelor degree in economics and commerce. Thanks a lot for being here today. On his side, we have Miss Anna Manahan. She's the project manager of the MCPI and responsible for managing the overall implementation of project activities under the capacity building program of MCPI. She has over 15 years of experience in managing project activities with development organization, NGOs, and community-based organization. She's graduated in agriculture and economics, and actually she participated in the certificate course in law and regulation of inclusive finance in the University of Luxembourg in 2019. So thanks a lot for being here. Thanks a lot for explaining us what we are doing in the Philippines. And I give the floor to Allan to introduce MCPI. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Lucia. So, and thank you to the European Microfinance Platform for giving us the opportunity to share our experience regarding our Green Inclusive Finance project. So let me start with a quick introduction of MCPI. So we are the national network of microfinance institutions and support organizations working towards sustainable, innovative, and client-responsive solutions to poverty in the Philippines. So we have a total of 64 members, and 55 of those members are regular members, meaning they are the ones doing retail microfinance, and the rest are associate members, which are support organizations. So we estimate that our membership, consolidated membership, account for 90% of the microfinance market in our country. So that includes loan portfolio and around 11 to 12 million clients in the Philippines. So we cover around 90% of that market. I mean, our members cover around 90% of that market. So just very briefly, I would like to present the categories of membership, because this is important when my colleague Anna will be explaining the partners of this project. No? So we have 11 banks in our membership, and banks in the Philippines are generally are supervised and regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, our central bank. While microfinance NGOs, we have 34 in our membership. They are regulated by and accredited by the Securities and Exchange Commission through what we call the Microfinance NGO Regulatory Council. We also have 7 cooperatives, and they are supervised by the Cooperative Development Authority. We also have 1 finance company and two retail microfinance institutions in our membership. But if you can see here, each type of institution is regulated by a different type of supervisory entity. So we don't have a single regulatory authority for all the microfinance activities. So it depends on your institution type, and your regulation will depend on your institution type. So moving on to the next slide, I would like to briefly explain how the microfinance sector landscape has changed significantly since it started 30 or 35 or 40 years ago. No? So we all know that it started as a microcredit initiative, which primarily was unregulated, and the primary purpose was poverty alleviation or poverty reduction, and the delivery channels were traditional meaning center meetings through face-to-face center meetings on a weekly or monthly basis, and generally it was grant-based. So microfinance institutions grew because of grants from donors, and the predominant model was group lending. And at the inception of MCPI in the year 1999 to 2000, we faced this landscape. But as you can see in the slide, the sector has changed significantly from microcredit to include the other types of financial services for low-income households. We call it microfinance. So there's micro savings, there's microinsurance, and there's push to regulate these types of financial services. And the primary objective was access to finance, no? And the improvement in MIS, or the management information systems, because of the volume of transactions due to weekly meetings. Then focus on financial sustainability. So from being grant-based, there was pressure for financial service providers or microfinance institutions to become financially sustainable and not rely on grants anymore. So we also face the diverse lending models, introduction of individual lending in partner, also in combination of group lending and individual lending, a variety of those models. And we face this probably between 2011 to just recently. And now, several years ago, the sector has changed significantly, as well as now being focused on financial inclusion, including funding linkages, capital markets, focus on impact investments, and improvement of value chains, digital financial services, which in the earlier session was discussed in this same meeting room, and then maintaining sustainability. And we also focus on removing exclusions, and for example, focusing on low-income farmers, those that are in off-grid areas where there is no connection to electricity to the grid, and focusing on youth. So that is what we are facing today at MCPI. And then we are highlighting here removing exclusion as part of our strategy, which is in the next slide. So our MCPI strategy on environmental sustainability is focused on three major areas: capacity building of member MFI. So our programs and services do not really divert from building the capacity of our member institutions, because we need to, part of our mission and our vision is really to capacitate our member MFIs in different areas. And now we want to increase uptake on integrating green inclusive finance, and focusing on innovative and client responsive, financially inclusive and sustainable products and services for microfinance clients. In the morning session today, our SIGRA representative said that climate change is pushing financial inclusion back. And that is exactly why we introduced these strategies, because we do not want this to happen. No? So we want to increase the resilience of microfinance clients by introducing this green inclusive finance project, which my colleague Anna Manahan will be explaining now. Anna, go ahead.
Hi. I'll stand because I'm too short to sit. so you can see me. All right. So, sorry. So as mentioned by Lucia, we started the initiative on green inclusive finance in 2013, focusing on energy access. So basically our target back then is the energy poor, or those who do not have access in energy. So from 2014 to 2019, we had 8 partners with a total of 10,000 loan disbursement for about $580,000 in total loan portfolio value. So in 2020, when we are conceptualizing another project initiative with ADA, supported by the Ministry of Environment, Climate and Sustainable Development, we were looking at how we can scale and amplify our results in terms of tapping other sectors that are most vulnerable to climate change. So back then, we were looking at agriculture because, as we all know, other than agriculture is the main contributor to climate change, they are also the one very exposed to natural hazards, and very their capacity, especially the poor farmers or the small scale farmers, are low in terms of, resilience building. So basically our project goal with the Green Inclusive Finance is for our MFI members to achieve the third bottom line of environmental sustainability. Specifically, through the technical assistance that MCPI provide to our partners, we want to increase their capacities in terms of developing appropriate loan products to their clients. It's very important because that loan product will help them build their resilience in terms of increasing their capacities to the effects of climate change, as well as climate change awareness. Among the microfinance client, there is low appreciation and understanding how climate change impacts their livelihood and overall well-being. So for this current project with ADA, we have 3 partners. And mentioned by Allan, we have 3 categories of microfinance institution in the Philippines. So we are partnering with Bangko Kabayan, which is a rural bank. We also partnering with the Microfinance NGO, which is Rangtay sa Pagrangay Microfinance Institution, as well as the cooperative or the Kasagana Ka Credit and Savings Cooperative. So we're touching and, looking at the differences between these 3 categories of MFIs. So for Bangko Kabayan and RPMI, we're focusing on climate smart agriculture. We're all familiar with the term of climate smart agriculture, green technologies for agriculture. And for Kasagana Cooperative, because their operation is mainly in urban communities, we're looking at energy efficiency and green housing design. Because one of the main, hazard in urban communities are flooding, the heat index, because, the Philippines is, right now we're experiencing El Nino, so it's very hot in the Philippines. So that's why we're glad we're here. It's cold here, but we're experiencing now in El Nino. So the effect of this El Nino in urban communities are higher than those in the mountains. So in my next slides, I'll show you or walk through you with our journey from 2020 when we started the implementation in 2021 up to date. So in 2021, as we all know, COVID, we are all affected by COVID. So our activities are only limited to inception workshop, online, those long online meetings in terms of how we will strategize and implement our project. So, sorry. When the restrictions in 2022 ease up, so that's when we did baseline studies. These are very important in terms of contextualizing and knowing the context of our target beneficiaries for us to develop those appropriate green loans for them. And also, what are the main hazards or main risks they are facing in terms of their agri-enterprises, in terms of the households situated in urban communities. And from those baseline studies, we develop information, education, and communication materials. So it's IEC materials. So the IEC materials that we develop is also context-based because that's only when our target beneficiaries can relate to those information, when those information are based on their context or based on their situation. Then in 2023, we continue to develop toolkits, not just for the target beneficiaries, but also for the MFI that we are partnering with. So sorry for the entire pictures, but this one, Green Microfinance Toolkit, we developed this specifically for the MFIs. So this toolkit contains of different processes in terms of how they can integrate green lens or green finance in their total operations. So this one, the Sicat in English is like industry use. We know all our farmers are very industry use. So it's a training kit on sustainable, integrated, and climate adaptive practices for agri-micro enterprises. So these toolkits are the main materials for our trainings, both for the MFIs and our clients, our target clients as well. So one of the key deliverable of our project is to develop model farms for houses or greenhouses. This is very important in terms of demonstrating that such technology in a specific context will work because, some people will wait and see. If they see there is a result in a certain, model, they will replicate it or adopt it. So it's very important for us, before we pilot the green loans or the sustainable loans, we demonstrate if those technologies, climate smart agriculture will really work in the context of the target clients. So the first model that we developed is an organic egg plant production. So this is the first taker for the model farm that we developed. So his name is Mario Ambal. And it's also his first time to do organic farming. So there are difficulties in terms of transition from conventional to organic. As we all know, it's very convenient to do conventional farming than organic farming, very tedious. You have to have the pest management, all of those inputs are natural, etc. So along with developing the model farm, we also projected the possible gains from doing organic farming. It's important for the farmers to see the figures, not just doing the practice, but also see the figures if they will really gain and see the value added of shifting from conventional to organic farming. So as you can see, this blue line, this is the total production from the organic eggplant production of Mario Ambal. So from August, his first harvest is around 190 kilos, just 190 kilos. And then it now increases to around 4,000 kilos of eggplant. So the routine of practicing organic farming, he is now getting it in terms of doing it on his own. So we partner with technical experts who are experts on organic farming and climate technologies to support Mario in terms of transition from conventional to organic farming. And then the orange one, this is actually the gross sales. So as you can see, from September, the gross sales already plateau. So meaning the price is already, generally stabilizing from the peak in September because we had a lot of typhoon in September, so the prices of vegetable tend to go up, but now it's already stabilizing. Then the second model farm is on organic tomato with drip irrigation system. Are you familiar with drip irrigation system? Yeah. So Angelito Mendoza, he is the second model farmer. He's a bit proactive in terms of exploring new technologies and a bit advanced than Mario because we already know organic farming. So we maximize or optimize his solar water pump and install the drip irrigation system in a 2,500 hectare land for tomato production. So what we did is that we also developed this potential income gains from the organic tomato as well as the drip irrigation system because the benefit from using a drip irrigation is that you conserve water. At the same time, the disease management is lesser because the plant has lesser contact with water because we all know if there is stagnant water, the roots will, get damaged. And also, as you can see, this black, are you familiar with this black cover? We call it mulching. So we use it for soil and nutrient management because when it rains, if your plot is not covered, there is a tendency of leaching. So all your nutrients will wash away by rainwater. So this is also one practice for green technology. So you tend to conserve all the nutrients that you put in your soil. So other than model farm for agriculture or for crops, we also develop model farm for fishery with solar technologies adopted. So for this one, Erlinda Palaya, we help install a solar aerator system for her fish pond. So she has already a diversified and integrated farm. So what we did is that we installed a solar aerator in her fish pond to lessen the mortality of shrimps because she's practicing freshwater shrimp culture. So the solar aerator would help, renewing the oxygen for the shrimp as well as for the fish in the pond to lessen the mortality. Hence, bigger production for her fish pond. And then the next one, we install solar lamps in fish cages. Have you seen fish cages? Not yet. So this is installed in the sea. So the fish pond is using fresh water. Fish cages, these are seawater. So it's installed in the sea. So Domingo Gapasen, we installed 4 solar lamps in 4 fish cages. So these solar lamps, the benefit of it is that during nighttime, because there is light, it attracts small fish for the grouper or lapu-lapu to be feeds. So in turn, Domingo would lessen his cost of buying feeds because at night, there's already small fishes inside the fish cages where they can help in the growth period of the grouper. So the solar aerator cost around $860 for the installation and for all the parts of the solar aerator, which is around 500 watts capacity. So the client also installed on her own solar lamps, perimeter lights around the fish pond to maximize the capacity of the solar panel. For Domingo, the cost of the installation of solar lamps in each of the fish cages, it's around $500. Cheap, right? But the benefit would come in. It's bigger. So this is also an established practice in some of the provinces in the Philippines in terms of installing lights to attract small fish. So other than the model farms, we also establish model houses or green design. So the target communities, as I have mentioned, for Casagana Cooperative, those clients are situated in relocation sites. If I have colleagues from the Philippines, they know how, relocation sites are built. They are built in row houses and there are limited space between houses. Sometimes it's just one wall dividing two houses. So there is limited space. So the challenge now is what is the appropriate technology or technique for us to develop a green design for these relocation houses. So as you can see in the first picture, this is when we did an assessment. We go to the client, we talk to them, what are the challenges living in a relocation site, how they use their energy, etc. So as you can see, this is a bit cramped and it's very hot inside the house because made of raw materials. So the client took out a loan of 100,000 around how much that in? Around $1,800 to use for the renovation of her house. So what she did is that since it's difficult to expand horizontally, she expanded vertically. So she increased the height of the ceiling, installed insulation, the silver ones, insulation materials, to lessen the heat inside the house. And if you can see this glass block, it's a technique for you to allow natural lighting inside the house. So in turn, you don't use lights during the day because you allow natural light during daytime. So in effect, the client somehow reduced her expenses on electricity. So it's a one way of energy efficient technique. It's simple technique, but in terms of a microfinance client, it's a big benefit for them of reducing their electricity costs that can be used for other needs in the house. This, we also promote urban garden. We all know during the pandemic, in the Philippines, urban gardening was very, it was well promoted during the pandemic. Allan as well practiced urban garden in his home during the pandemic. So we also include that in terms of encouraging clients to produce their own food. Because as we experience in Metro Manila source all the food outside. So we were hungry during the pandemic because there are restrictions in, border controls, etc. And this technology, we call it skylight. It's also a technique for you to allow natural lighting inside your home. All right, so parallel with the development or the setting up of the model houses and model farms, we developed the green loans of the MFI partners. So for Bangko Kabayan and RPMI, they have two separate loans. One for working capital. So this is specifically focusing on organic farming, organic inputs for the farm. And then the second loan is on equipment loan. So this would range from greenhouses to solar technology, solar water pump, etc. For K-Co-op or Kasagana Ka Cooperative, we have the Greens Loan. So this is basically can be used for renovation of houses, green materials, green building materials, as well as for solar energy access. So of course, during the process of implementing the project, we also have challenges in terms of really engaging with the partners, implementing our activities. So we have identified 3 key challenges: replicability, scalability, and sustainability. Always the 3. Replicability. So how can we replicate the model that we have developed and have, greater impact on the ground? So in terms of tapping other MFIs and adopting the model that we developed during from 2013 up to now. Scalability. We all know that there are models that are replicable but not scalable. For instance, ocean cleanup. We all know that we can cover a lot of coastlines, but if the initiative doesn't translate to reducing plastics, so we're just doing it all over again, and the waste are just piling up in the sea. That's also a case for the green inclusive finance. How can we scale our efforts and achieve the domino effect in terms of transforming this individual client initiative to a community-based initiative? For instance, waste management. If I'm practicing individually waste management, how can the community practice it as well? And, form an enterprise out of that initiative. Sustainability always has been a challenge for any intervention. So how can we continue our work in the green inclusive finance approach and sustain our efforts with lesser dependency on grants? We all know that grants, it's not that sustainable, right? When you're accessing grants all the time, you have to think of other financing model that can later on be sustainable and you can work on your own. So all of these 3 elements are important for MCTI to measure its work in terms of resilience building of the MFI clients and ultimately on its mission of poverty reduction. We all go down to our mission in terms of all of our initiatives on how we contribute to poverty reduction. At the level of MFIs, there are also challenges. So one challenge, especially for microfinance NGO, is that they are limited to 300,000 or around $5,200 aggregate loan per client. So it's small. So for a greenhouse, for a micro agri client who would want a greenhouse construction, this is too small for him. So it's a challenge for microfinance NGOs. In terms of sustainability, market readiness. So specifically for farmers, how can we shift their mindset from subsistence approach to entrepreneurial one, hence investment? So that's one of our challenge. When we introduce, technologies to them, they always ask how much would that cost? And, shifting to green technologies is sometimes expensive than, those conventional one. So how they can look at it, treat it as an investment rather than an expense on their side. Funding. So how can MFIs access funding or other financing vehicle that are non-traditional in nature, unlike those banks offering wholesale lending? And lastly, this is very important because the knowledge on climate adaptation, mitigation, climate change among the staff of microfinance institutions is very important in terms of buy-in of the project. Because if they understand what the effects of this climate change did, they would understand the situation of the clients. Next one is basically focus on the agri-financing. So there is this notion that agri-financing is higher risk, which is true because it's more exposed to natural hazards. As mentioned, as we've seen in the survey of Lucia, we're, experiencing 23 typhoons in a year, blah, 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 landslides. So it's very, the agri sector is very exposed. And secondly, the adoption of new practice or technologies. The average age of farmers in the Philippines is 55. So we have aging farmers. And sometimes the son of the farmers would tend to go to Metro Manila to work, and no one will be, somehow continuing the work of the farmers. So there is still hesitation on adopting new technologies because they're so used to the old way of farming, which is backbreaking, the manual labor. So there is still this challenge of penetrating those traditional farmers. In terms of the greenhousing design, as I had mentioned, these houses are located in relocation sites. So the existing structure of relocation houses, as well as the limited space, it's a challenge of thinking or looking at what are the appropriate techniques that we can use for green design. So what are the next steps for MCPI and our MFI partners? So we will CLAC. We love our acronyms. Philippines is, we were all for acronyms. So we will collaborate, leverage, advocate, and capacitate. Collaborate, build more partnerships within and outside the sector. These are the local government, the government agencies, business sectors, and CSOs and NGOs that also have the same vision of increasing the resilience of individuals in the country. Leverage our resources and achievement to tap other financing vehicles like the green bonds, climate investments, etc. Advocate. So we will advocate with regulators, and this is very important because if it's not mandated by the regulator, sometimes it's not being, practiced, or the sector will not do it. So we will advocate with the regulators in terms of creating an enabling environment for MFIs that would implement climate change and environmental management programs. So example is like incentive mechanism for MFIs or guarantee mechanism. So somehow they can lower the interest rates. That could be also an option. Continue to capacitate our members as well as within MCPI for us to learn more about green finance, climate finance. For the MFI partners, so since we have already established the model farm, so we will now pilot the green loans or promote it among the clients. So for RPMI, since they are an microfinance NGO, they will adopt the gradual or incremental loans because of the limitation of the $5,200. So it's an incremental loan. Once the loan is already paid, now the client can now get an additional loan to further expand whatever project that the client want to do, and collaborate with our other MFIs. So this is an initial discussion with Bangko Kabayan in terms of how they can help a microfinance NGO in terms of addressing the limitation of the $5,200 aggregate loan. For climate smart agri financing, so we have the Philippine Guarantee Corporation. So the MFIs can access this guarantee mechanism, where this agriculture credit guarantee program can provide 85% guarantee of the loan in case of default. Of course, there are considerations for you to be able to access that 85%. For the clients, we promote the crop insurance from the Ministry of Agriculture. It's small, but still can help the clients whenever there is typhoon or their crops are damaged. Demonstration of specific green technologies and practices, as I've mentioned, this is very important for the clients to really, see that this technique or technology will work in their context. And then for the greenhouse design, so we see that retrofitting of houses is more efficient than constructing new ones, as well as adoption of energy efficient technologies. So this is my last slide. So, in terms of the advantages of engaging with the network, so with us, with MCPI, it's more efficient for an institution. It's more efficient to engage in a network because talking to several institutions is costly than talking to only one. We have, provision of value-added services for our member MFIs. We also develop expertise within MCPI as well as with our MFI members. We also already replicated the models and somehow scale it up to other MFIs. At the level of MFI, all materials and learning can be accessed at the network. There is easier access to peer learning and network team as mentors. So before I end, I say thank you. We will we will present a video. No more. All right. So yeah, if you have a question, Allan can answer the question on my behalf. I'm just here to present. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. We are a bit late. So rather than showing the video, I would let the floor for questions. If somebody has Hani, we hope so. Oh, yes. We don't have a lady of the microphone, so I'm going to do that. We have. Okay.
Yeah. Not sure if this is working. I hope so. Hi, I'm Tamara Campero, Oxfam Novit. Thank you for sharing more about this amazing project. It was such a nice, for me, and I've been working in the sector for almost 30 years. I think that I've been here for a really long time. It was great to hear more about what you were doing. I have one question and a comment. My question will be if you could provide some more information about the portfolio of these 3 MFIs which are working already on this, for me to get an idea of how large are the portfolios, how is the potential of replicability of the project, and so on. That's my question. And my comment is just to tell you, Oxfam Novit Fund, we recently switched the strategy of the investment, and it's really pretty much aligned with what you are doing. So our focus is climate resilience building to microfinance institutions. So when you was mentioning about the challenges that MFIs are dealing with to implement this kind of project, I was thinking, yes, that's what we are offering now. Right? So on one hand, we are offering special funding for, and on the other hand, and I think that is the core of our new strategy, we're supporting MFIs to assess the real climate change that they are dealing with. And we're trying to switch the idea of this is a risk, so I don't invest here, to, okay, this is a risk. If I learn how to mitigate and to manage the risk, that risk can be an opportunity. So thanks a lot. We will have on Friday a session to discuss more, to tell more about our session, but thanks a lot for this. And I'm looking forward to the figures and to have a chat later on.
Hello. So in terms of, sorry, it's too loud. In terms of portfolio of the MFI, so for RPMI and Bangko Kabayan, it's around 10% of their total portfolio for agriculture. So scale up, it's a challenge for them because they want to prove first the model if it will work, because sustaining such initiative would be the next question. If you scale up, how can you sustain later on? So that's what our strategy is about. So we want to take those steps before we think of scaling it up. We want to test the green loans first, and 10% it's a bit high for agri portfolio for the MFIs. For K-Co-op, their housing is around those values as well, around 10% of the total portfolio.
Thank you for this presentation. Really interesting. My name is Lynette Reed. I'm a doctoral candidate at the University of Luxembourg, and I'm also from Jamaica, which is highly vulnerable to the same disasters we spoke about. But we looked at the frequency of disasters in the Philippines. So I saw typhoons. So we have hurricanes. I saw earthquakes. We had one in Kingston just the other day. I saw landslides. But my question is, because I'm studying really on the impact of microfinance for people to build resilience, and a lot of the projects, as necessary as they are, as important as they are, I saw more, or what stood out to me was their impact on mitigating some of the impacts, some of the climate effects, like more sustainable practices. So my question is, how do the model farm, the model house, is it an indirect link to building resilience to, say, a storm? Is it that, because you did show us that they have higher yield on their crops, so then maybe they have more money, so that when they do get hit by the typhoon, which is coming, they can bounce back? Because I find, especially in my research, I'm having to explain that it's not a direct link, so that when we talk about adaptation, we don't actually have to show that this crop is stronger and it will not be destroyed in the next hurricane, because it might be. However, the person is stronger. So I'm wondering how is the messaging? Because when the session is called Building Resilience in Vulnerable Communities, but then I'm not seeing as much the direct link to the hazards that these communities are facing through the project. So if you could enlighten this.
So there are two effects of climate change. One is the rapid onset and the slow onset. So for the technologies, it's more directly linked to slow onset. Yes, the heat, the heat, El Nino, La Nina. In terms of the rapid onset, these are typhoons, landslides. So the direct link of adopting these green technologies, while they consider it as inexpensive, but in the long term, when you compute all the damages of these typhoons, somehow you'll benefit in the long term for these green technologies. So you're correct in saying that if they have greenhouse, their crops are protected for typhoons. And also they can, plant other commodities that are not in season, which in turn, it would have, higher price. So those kind of linkages, we want the farmers to realize that this is not just adaptation or mitigation strategy. These technologies have direct link to your productivity in your enterprise. So as I've mentioned a while ago, how can we shift the mindset of our farmers from just doing agriculture as subsistence to entrepreneurial? Because when you think of it as a business, you tend to invest on those, technologies that you would later on benefit from, other than just, practicing, waiting, early harvest and tend to let other crops to be destroyed by typhoon. So we want that messaging for them to realize, they will investing in green technologies or sustainable practices would help them in the long term.
Hello.
Hi.
So here is David from Just Institute. I just have a very simple question. In one slide, you stated that climate smart agriculture is riskier or is perceived riskier? Because it says agri-finance. I will assume, my understanding, that it's maybe perceived riskier because it's innovation, and is agriculture finance that is riskier? Or do you have a way to say that the climate smart agriculture will be riskier because then will not fulfill the scope?
No, in general, agriculture is riskier because it is exposed. The sector is more exposed to natural hazards. So practicing climate smart agriculture, not just the technique, but also investing on technologies would lessen the risks of this agri-financing. So in general, the perception of agri-financing, it's higher risks, regardless of if you're practicing climate smart agriculture or the traditional one. But if the messaging is that the CSA technologies would help you lessen your risks from typhoon, El Nino, La Nina, whatever natural hazard. So the messaging would now, you invest higher now, but your risk will be lessened in the long term.
Does the client understand this? Or do they perceive
Well-
additional risk because on top of agri is also new?
Yes, yes. So we're still in the initial stage of letting them understand the risks of climate change in agriculture. That level, we have to level off with that. The clients should understand first what are the risks from climate change. And then from there, we introduce this climate smart agriculture for them to understand how these technologies would lessen the risks from climate change impacts. So I think it's if you introduce concepts to farmers, they tend to get overwhelmed. So we're taking step by step for them to really understand and appreciate that this issue on climate change really impact them.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My question is in regards to especially the greenhouse. When these vulnerable communities, they are taking these, it showed like quite huge loans and investing in a greenhouse, which is not a productive asset per se. You already mentioned the issue of scalability as a challenge, but I would look at it in terms of what about the health of the portfolio? Are they able to repay what such huge loans if they invest in, yes, a house, but then it's not bringing in income to enable service the loan?
Yeah, so correct. The greenhouse, investing in greenhouse is not a productive as compared to investing in climate smart agriculture. But if you have a resilient home, especially in the context of the Philippines, you tend to bounce back, especially for microfinance clients where their business are connected to their houses. So the effect is it's not indirectly a productive one, but if you have resilient houses, you tend to not worry about flooding and close your shop later on. Or you tend not to worry about the impact of earthquake if your house is situated and if your house is not situated in a fault line. So those kind of interlinkages, we have to really look at it because there are, somehow resilient houses has a nexus with productivity of the clients. So did I answer your question?
Any more questions? Okay. Okay, we are a bit late, but let me thank once again Allan and Anna for being here and presenting the project that we are implementing together. Thanks a lot once again for being in this session and enjoy your evening.